With the end of the year at hand and YouTube ad rates at their peak, it would probably be smart for me to make another video about Mob Psycho or Spy Family or Chainsaw Man right about now. But I like to be that anime YouTuber who's in it for the little guys. Or in this case, the little girls. No, wait, sorry, I was just making a play on words with the phrase there. Besides, they're not really little, they're in high school, so I should just start over. It is my professional opinion that you, personally, need to watch Bocchi the Rock, because you, personally, will find something to love in it, no matter what kind of anime fan you are. Unless you're the kind who's mainly in it for the horny, but Cloverworks has made plenty of chill comedy anime for you, personally, this year, so you can just deal with that. Nothing personal. Sorry, did I say chill comedy anime? Because if that's what you're here for, you should probably just go watch Do It Yourself instead. Despite its superficial resemblance to K-On!, the epitome of anime chill, Bocchi the Rock has basically none. Indeed, that's what makes it so funny. Like, we're talking Nichijou levels of funny here. Series protagonist Hitori Bocchi Goto is a pent-up ball of absurd social anxieties mixed with manic delusions of rockstar grandeur, and the show uses its high-intensity hard rock soundtrack in conjunction with high-energy, highly experimental digital and mixed media animation to put you, the viewer, in her hilariously messed-up headspace. It's the sort of thing that I, as a hardcore anime fan, simply can't get enough of, as are all the references to my favorite anisong bands hidden in the show. But much like Kaguya-sama, Nichijou, or Spy Family, it's not the sort of thing that you need to be a hardcore anime fan to fully enjoy. If you've ever dealt with anxiety, know someone who has, or you or a loved one is thinking of becoming a rock star one day, or if you're one of many other possible types of guy, gal, or other, then you too will belly laugh a lot and maybe ugly cry a little at this here beautiful work of art. My first instinct when talking about Bocchi the Rock is to start gushing about its gorgeous animation and never, ever stop. Not only do its simplified, intentionally somewhat scuffed character designs allow for extremely kinetic and expressive movements, but through some very clever compositing, it's able to blend those cartoony characters seamlessly into the sort of semi-photorealistic environments you'd expect to see in a more high-fidelity Makoto Shinkai type thing, rather than the more abstract or painterly environments you typically find behind this sort of cartoony style. Even more impressive, the show manages to make those disparate visual styles mix without using any noticeable post-processing filters, simply by having the color team match the vibrance, white balance, and lighting of the characters to the environments around them, which indicates a level of pre-production planning behind the scenes that we rarely see. Oh my god, I am so sorry. I was trying to segue into not following that nerdy instinct because, I mean, you're so cool, and I want you to think this anime is cool, not get bored with my nerd crap or whatever. Because if you did, I'd be letting Bocchi-chan down, and nobody wants to see her sad. Wait, what am I talking about? It is so damn funny when she's sad. Even her little sister, the devil, thinks so. And it's basically unavoidable that she will be sad on account of, you know, all her colossal mental health problems, so if you can't laugh about it, what can you do? Fight for her dreams. That's what. Bocchi-chan may well be a worthless, friendless, useless worm, nay, a cockroach, nay, a paramecium, who can't even walk into a convenience store or say more than 3 words to a real person without dry heaving, but she is bound and determined to climb her way up the evolutionary ladder back to human the only way she knows how, by shredding so sickly that her epic riffs transcend all barriers of communication and reach literally everyone in the world, who will then understand her perfectly through that music, and then she'll never have to explain anything about how she feels or what she's going through in a casual conversation ever again. What can I say? Girls will literally become international music sensations instead of going to therapy. I'll admit, I see a fair amount of myself in Bocchi, more than most other anime characters, and not just because she has a decently successful YouTube channel that's her only source of social interaction outside her immediate family most days. Though, yeah, that part cuts pretty deep. But long before I even knew what a sub count was, I too was a kid who paradoxically wished to be simultaneously invisible and seen. And I too was drawn to the stage by that feeling. Albeit with a bit more haste than the 3 years that Hitori spends practicing alone in her closet before she can even bring herself to bring her guitar to school. Not to, like, play it or anything, just to have it so that maybe someone will talk to her about it, you know? Also, I was a theater kid, not a music kid, but that same feeling has also created many a photography kid, art kid, film kid, code kid, and filming yourself trying don't try this at home stuff at home kid. It's not a universal experience among artists by any means, but it's certainly a common one. Something that Bocchi herself learns as she breaks out of her shell and into the Tokyo indie music scene over the course of the series, and meets older role models who've been through what she's going through and drink a lot to cope. Though she also meets plenty of other artist archetypes, of course, particularly among her colorfully varied bandmates, who show her that it takes a harmony of disparate voices, including ones like hers, to make truly beautiful music. And they also show us a variety of perspectives on introversion, extroversion, and social anxiety, but I probably ought to introduce them a little more first before diving into that. Bubbly blonde drummer Nijika Ichiji is the first member of the band to discover Hitori's talent, as she sulks solemnly in a public park, moping over the failure of her extremely interesting guitar case to break even a single cube of ice with any one of her classmates that day. Well, okay, Ichiji-san isn't really looking for talent so much as literally anyone with a guitar within a 5-mile radius on account of their guitarist ghosting them and them needing a replacement for their show in 5 hours, which is a big step for Hitori-chan. Bigger than she's comfortable taking today, if she's being honest, but she's mentally incapable of being honest or saying no to anyone who asks her for a favor, so not long after that, she meets the band's calm, collected, cool beauty hipster bassist, Ryo Yamada, a self-proclaimed musical genius who might well have been best girl if she wasn't just the absolute worst. Unlike the loudly oblivious Nijika, who tramples all over Hitori's feelings inadvertently in all her ambitiously extroverted go-getting, Ryo is a quiet loner type who mostly sits back and listens, though when she does talk, she tells it like it is. As such, she's the first to really see what Hitori's doing to herself and going through, and doesn't do much of anything to help unless she really needs to, because that would be work, and it is so fun to watch. Ryo needs the free entertainment too, since she spends all her money on instruments and other music crap. And I do mean all her money. Like, if you're wondering, how does she eat? That's what her friends' money is for. Every great band needs one of those. But every great band also needs a great frontman, and that's probably not gonna be Bocchi-chan, even with the combined power of both her new bandmates' friendships pushing her forward. It's all she can do to not crawl into a trash can for the rest of her life and roll credits immediately on not just her music career, but the entire anime after not being great the first time she ever played with other people. And she only makes it up on stage that night by doing her best Solid Snake impression. No, Kesoku Band is gonna need a real lead singer. Someone with charisma, stage presence, and a beautiful voice to match. And that someone, as we learn through conveniently overheard hallway rumors of her karaoke prowess, is Kita Ikuyo, the kind of perfectly peppy popular girl who'd be impossible for Bocchi to approach even if she wasn't in a different class from her, but luckily she overhears our protagonist lamenting those poor social skills in the form of a beautiful rock ballad in the school stairwell and starts the conversation for her. So that just kind of all works itself out. With that, the comedic ensemble is finally assembled, and I have finally laid sufficient groundwork to point out the neat trivia detail that the 4 members of Kesoku Band share their last names with the 4 members of Anisong Legends' Asian Kung Fu generation, who you might know from their work on Full Metal Alchemist, Naruto, and many others. Isn't that neat? Yeah. It's so neat. Slightly less importantly, that also lays the groundwork to discuss how this quartet informs the themes of the show and Bocchi's own personal journey. As you'll probably expect if you've seen any halfway decent cute girls doing cute things anime before, the 4 members of Kesoku Bando act as foils to one another in both a comedic and dramatic sense throughout the series. As a cool loner who's comfortable in her own skin and honest to a fault about everything except when she'll pay you back, Ryo shows what timid pathological liar Hitori might have been without the endless marathon of everything that could ever possibly go wrong with anything that's constantly playing at the movie theater in her head. And Ryo-san, for her part, knows exactly how to play the weaker introvert like a fiddle, or bass, I guess. A talent that she occasionally uses for Bocchi's own good, but mostly for Bocchi's own money. Next up, Nijika, boisterous and cheerful, who shares tight-knit ties with a close group of friends and a ride-or-die bond with her older sister, even if they do give each other a hard time pretty much all the time, is everything that Hitori wishes she could be, but knows she can't. In part because, even without the ever-present and entirely rational fear that any slight social faux pas she commits might tear the fabric of society asunder and doom the entire human race, she just isn't extroverted enough to be like that all the time. But also in part because her little sister, Futari, is once again the actual devil. Now, you might think, given that the redhead is a shining social butterfly who does karaoke with classmates on weekends and smiles as she greets literally everyone she meets in the school hallways, that Kita-chan would be the most polar opposite member of the group to Bocchi. But if you've been keeping score of the balance of these traits among the band members, you might have noticed that so far we've got exactly 1 introvert and 1 extrovert who are, self-confident and mostly neurotypical, and then 1 introvert who's just a complete mess, mentally speaking, which leaves a pretty obvious gap in the roster. And on top of that, there are also subtle clues that Miss Ikuyo might not be quite entirely right in the head, such as most of the things she says and does. Yeah, Kita's also got that social anxiety, and bad. Maybe even as bad as Bocchi in her own way. But the difference, obviously, is that she's an extrovert. So instead of shying away from other people out of fear that she'll offend them and all of society in some unseen way, she bends over backwards to be a people pleaser, conforming to trends, making lots of shallow friends, and frequently making promises she can't keep to the people she really wants to impress. Ikuyo-san is the type to go charging in where our heroine would dare not tread, but not for a lack of fear. She just chooses fight over flight. And here's the thing. That doesn't devalue what Kita brings to the table by being so impulsive, ambitious, and reflexively overconfident. She amps the rest of the group up, helps them believe in themselves, and pushes them to do things they might not otherwise try because they think they're impossible or too hard, or because those things are just objectively bad ideas, but as they say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And Bocchi-chan, too, brings something to the table that the other members are lacking. Several things, even. The first being all that time she spent alone practicing guitar, obviously. That's very useful to the band. But there's also all her pent-up everything, which, when she channels it into her music and lyrics, absolutely electrifies a room. But perhaps most importantly, while all the time that she spends imagining every little thing that can possibly go wrong with every possible scenario does hold her back from leaping into things or even making basic decisions or doing basic social interactions, once she's out there and realizes that what she feared is nowhere near as bad as she imagined, which it never is, Bocchi is able to step up and confidently perform where even Speedwag Nijika is afraid. Every member brings something unique and vital to the band, and together they form a perfect harmony, each covering for the other's weaknesses and amplifying the other's strengths. And this balance is even reflected in their designs, specifically the hair. See, the size of each Kesoku bandmate's side tail represents their overall level of extroversion, with Bocchi's coming out the other side because she's kind of in the negative. Meanwhile, their bangs symbolize their introverted tendencies, with the length of the bangs corresponding to how much of an introvert they are, a part in the bangs representing self-confidence and honesty, and a middle bang indicating that the character is hiding and bottling up their real feelings in some way. The harmony of these four in action is really something to behold, once they're actually on stage, that is. Though, of course, most of the story and most of the fun lies in the hilarious comedy of errors that it inevitably takes to get these idiots up there. Bocchi the Rock features a distinctive style of anime comedy that rarely relies on trite cliches like the ever-over-popular absurd misunderstanding, despite how badly its protagonist struggles to communicate at times. When someone misunderstands Bocchi, it's usually because she lied to them on purpose, out of fear of some social pitfall that she made up in her head a moment ago, possibly while staring off into space for several straight minutes as an elaborate cutaway gag about the horrible, world-ending consequences of her social ineptitude plays out in her head, during which the other characters sit around vocally wondering what's wrong with her. That is, until they start actually understanding what's wrong with her as her close friends, at which point the line between fantasy and reality within the show starts to blur, and they start getting sucked into her delusions of self-torment, which is just so much fun to watch. These daydream sequences, which the anime officially dubs Bocchi Time in one of its rare enough to actually still be funny fourth wall breaks, are the highlight of each episode in terms of comedy and visual spectacle, shifting the style and sometimes even medium of the animation to take Bocchi's mostly baseless fears to and past their most absurd logical extremes to hilarious effect. These gloriously over-the-top moments of manic despair are counterbalanced somewhat by the show's vivid and expressive musical sequences. Animated with the same over-the-top experimental energy as the rest of the show, the music infuses the visuals in these scenes with a palpable sense of synesthesia, particularly when the genre of that music shifts from punk to psychedelic. Shinichiro Watanabe fans are gonna like this one a lot, is what I'm saying. The scenes where the characters perform are mesmerizing, inspiring, and uplifting, standing in stark contrast to the show's general doomer vibe, which, to be clear, isn't just a product of Hitori's personal hang-ups and delusions. Shit's realistically hard for indie musicians in this show's world. Bocchi's biggest role model is a barely functioning alcoholic, and our heroine's looming worry that if she can't make it in music, she'll be doomed to the life of a useless hikikomori with no marketable talents is... I mean, I don't want to sound like her family here, but it's good that she's aware of the stakes and taking this seriously as a career path. I mean, I'm pretty sure she'll be fine. She is the protagonist, after all. Wouldn't be much of a story if her dreams just never came true on her. And she's off to as good a start as you could reasonably expect with making friends, bless her heart. But unlike you know, that one other anime about the teenage girls in a rock band, Bocchi the Rock doesn't sugarcoat what it's like to be a musician or a teenager, or downplay the difficulty of turning your dreams into reality for the sake of crafting a safe little bubble of escapist fantasy for people to ignore those troubles in. And it's constantly finding new and innovative ways to express all the angst that comes from not being able to escape that stuff in the form of super scuffed, rule-breaking animation. I'd say it's pretty punk rock, but I already made that video about a different anime like 2 months ago, so let's say it's pretty emo instead. But like, the cool, funny kind of emo. You know, like that one friend you had in high school whose crippling depression completely destroyed their filter. You know, laughing hysterically, because if you don't, you'll cry. That's the general vibe here, only cute and wholesome, so like, the emo equivalent of baby metal, almost? No, that's not quite it. It's more like, actually, the show provides a perfect example. At one point, Ryo reassures Bocchi that while her lyrics may well be uncomfortably angsty and kind of a bummer, TBH, the idea of a pretty normie like Kita singing them is hilarious, actually, so it's fine. And, like, if you replace the word normie in that sentence with K-On!-style relaxing slice of life comedy and the word lyrics with things that one typically watches a K-On!-style relaxing slice of life comedy to avoid thinking about, then that's about what Bocchi the Rock seems to be going for, artistically speaking. K-On!, but unironically. The anti-K-On!, if you will. I won't, though. I think that's kind of reductive as to what both series accomplish. Kind of like calling Madoka Magica a subversion of the magical girl genre, as opposed to a darker interpretation of the same core concepts and themes as most of the classics. Bocchi's simply telling a very different story with a much darker sense of humor, using most of the same storytelling tools and core themes as K-On!, and I think people who like either will find something to love about the other, and anyone with any level of interest in anime who's seen neither really ought to give both a shot, because they are both unironically fun for the whole family. Perfect entertainment for your obligatory normie get-togethers this holiday season once you've run out of Spy Family episodes. Or before, even, because Bocchi the Rock definitely belongs in the Anime of the Year conversation every bit as much as that show, and K-On! Is like, top 5 Christmas anime ever, maybe? To be fair, the bar is not really all that high there. Tokyo Godfathers is about the only anime that even tries to be a Christmas anime, but even the beach episodes of K-On! Are Christmassier in overall vibe than, say, just to pick a random example, not foreshadowing any upcoming roast videos or anything, the Love Hina Christmas special, and they're definitely less risky to put on in polite company. Probably less risky than Bocchi the Rock, too, assuming anyone in that polite company has, you know, crippling depression or whatever, but they might also appreciate the mix of relatability and schadenfreude, so still give it a shot. I say, I should probably just stop talking if I want you to watch the anime now, huh? Or maybe several minutes ago. I'm so bad at ending these things. I'm Geoff Thew, professional paramecium, signing out from the garbage can where I belong. But I'll see you all here next week for that Love Hina Christmas video.